Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B here in mid-Michigan, and it's a beautiful fall day today. We have already been to a soccer game and now I am home. It's going to be a high of 50 degrees, partly cloudy, and I thought what a perfect day for us to be able to get out in the garden, plant our Fothergilla and planting our witch hazel, because we had quite a bit of rain again yesterday, which was unexpected. So the ground is very saturated, but I do have decent enough drainage back here on the hill to ensure that it's not swamped. Because what I will tell you is it's not good to dig in your soil when it is super, super wet, because if you do, or if you walk on it or you try to work with it and it's clay, those really small, smooth particles will start sticking together even more and become even more compacted. So we are able to plant in this. I definitely checked it out already, and I started digging a hole as a result of that, just to kind of move the video along a little bit quicker. So let's take a look at the area where we're going to be planting the witch hazel. All right, well, we are in the way back garden, and it's a gorgeous day in the way back garden. Everything is really thriving. The only thing that I've seen being nibbled on so far this year is this one pulmonaria, and the pulmonaria is doing just fine. It's still pushing out some new growth as well, so I'm not too worried about it. I think they took some bites out of it, the deer did, and then they decided, nope, that's not really for me. And otherwise, all of our plantings are doing great and surviving the deer herds that we get through back here, as well as all of the other different animals. And this is an area where we took a small buckthorn out last year. It was definitely too tall, and like I said, we're trying to get rid of our buckthorn. I have one other one over here on the other side of the path that is in my back garden and not in the way back, and eventually that one's going to need to come out as well, because it just drops its berries and it's not very pretty, etc. But right now we are going to work in the way back, and right in this area, it's probably a few feet away from where that buckthorn was, we have started digging a hole, and I'll give you a peek down in there. The hole definitely needs to be pretty deep, but also pretty wide, because this is a fairly large pot on this witch hazel, and this is a vernal witch hazel. And according to the tag, it will get 6 to 10 feet tall and wide. And that is because sometimes these will grow with suckers alongside of them. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to try and see if this actually is the right size of a hole for this witch hazel. If not, we'll dig it a little bit further, and if it is, we'll get it planted and make sure that the right side is kind of facing forward, if you will, and get it going. I'm just going to take the tag off of this if I can get it. For those of you that weren't able to watch my plant haul video where I talked about this witch hazel, this is a vernal witch hazel. It's Hamamelis vernalis. It is a dense rounded shrub with outstanding autumn color. It has interesting yellow blooms that appear before the leaves emerge in really early spring, sometimes late winter, depending on where you are. So that's what those blooms look like. It's hardy down to a zone 4 and all the way up into a zone 8. It needs about average water, and like I said, it gets 6 to 10 feet tall and wide, and those little blooms are going to be a yellow and red. This one goes in sun to part shade, and so we're going to be planting it in kind of a part sun area right now. I'm going to try to get the pot off. I think this is fairly aggressively pot bound. This may have been a plant that was potted up last year or didn't sell last year. I'm not sure. All right, there we go. It looks really nice and healthy though. It is quite heavy because it took on a lot of water from that rain we just got. I think I need to take just a little bit more out from the hole here. Now, as with other shrubs and trees that I may be planting in the garden, I'm trying to plant this one just a little bit above soil level. And we're on a very steep slant here. You may not be able to tell because I think sometimes TV or video doesn't really pick up the slant great, but it is very slanted. And so this is actually going to be planted level with the top side of the ground. And I'm just going to backfill it now. Now this plant is kind of growing towards one direction or this way, and that's kind of the direction that I want it to grow. This side should get some western sun in the end of the day, but I think all in all, this is going to be the way that I want it to face. I think that's going to help it grow correctly. Who knows? You never really know, but you just got to make your best guess sometimes when something you buy is a little bit lopsided in terms of how it's been growing. Now, I'm not supplementing anything right now into the soil. We're just using our native soil. This is a native plant, the witch hazel to Michigan. There are several different varieties of witch hazel. Well, I shouldn't say that it's native to Michigan, but it is a native plant in the United States. And so it should do quite well here. And I'm just going to mound the soil up right around it. And hopefully all of this geranium macrorhizum, which is around it, will continue to grow back and fill in around the base of the shrub. Next year, I will probably come through and prune this a bit. But I don't want to prune it now because it has all of its buds set for the winter, or it should. And if I pruned it, it would simply take away from the first set of flowers that we might get this year. And I definitely don't want to do that, because that's one of the whole purposes of why I'm planting this, is for more late winter, very early spring interest. So I think it's just really going to do the trick. Now in fall, this will turn a beautiful, gorgeous yellow color. So we'll be keeping our eye out for that in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, it has a gorgeous blue-green type foliage, which I think goes really well with everything that is back here. And it should be a really good site for it because it does have good drainage on the hill. And then the other reason I planted it back here is because I have this witch hazel, which we planted last year. It hasn't put on a lot of growth. But this is the Jelena witch hazel. It did bloom really pretty for me last year. And so I'm hoping this will continue to put on growth. This one gets a little bit bigger than the Vernal witch hazel because this one is actually a hybrid. And this one blooms more of a pinkish red type or coppery red color. I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but it too has that beautiful blue-green type foliage. All right, well, I think this looks great. So let's head out to the front and we will start planting the Fothergilla that we have. Well, here we are in the front garden and we have this beautiful Mount Airy Fothergilla, which is going to get about 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, and it will have beautiful fall foliage. This one does not turn yellow. It is more of an orange and red. So it has lots of beautiful different colors. And this one also will have beautiful white blooms on it. This one will bloom in spring, and it's got a really nice smell to it, a nice scent, and it grows in sun to part sun. So I'm gonna grab it and let's walk over to where we are going to plant it, because we're going to plant it near another Fothergilla that is over here, which is the Blue Shadow Fothergilla. But we're going to take out these 2 hostas back here, which are quite large hostas, and we are going to plant the Fothergilla right in that space after we remove them. I think that's going to look really nice. It's going to give a little bit more height on this corner because it should get up to about 5 feet. They are slow growing though, but the roots won't harm the foundation or anything. It is plenty far away from the foundation in terms of the planting. And I think it will just look really nice next to these other Fothergillas and kind of give more of a mass planted effect. Well, you can probably see that we are losing lots and lots of leaves right now, and they are everywhere. So I'm just kind of moving them out of the way so I can see what we're working with, because I know I have some stepping stones in here. And those always help to stand on, especially when the ground is wet and I don't want to, like I said earlier, compact the soil. So that would not be good. All right, we'll get this one out on the left, and then we'll take out the one on the right, and then we'll plant the Fothergilla right about in here. Now you might hear some noise because my neighbors are working on a project. They're putting in a privacy fence, a patio, and a pool. So they have some pretty heavy equipment going on over there. Everybody's trying to get in some of their last fall projects before it's too late and you have to wait a whole nother year. So like I normally do, I'm just trying to get as much of this native soil and mulch off from this root ball so I can just leave it in place. And this is the Fothergilla that is the blue shadow Fothergilla. By fall time, usually the bluish foliage turns a little bit less blue, because the waxy coating that makes it look blue has begun to really come off. All right, I think I've done a pretty good job of shaking off this root ball. And now we'll head in for this one right here and see how this comes out. These two hostas would be really, really big, just like the one that's in front of them. But the deer this season came through and ate them. And the nice thing about both the witch hazel that I planted and this Fothergilla is that they are deer resistant. And I need that in my garden. Kind of hard to tell where this plant ends because of the fact that they came through and ate it. Luckily, this moist soil makes it very easy to dig in. Well, that one came up really easy, and lots of the soil came off. All right, well, that should do that. And now we just need to get our hole dug right here. And I'm just moving aside some of the mulch and the top layer of soil that's so nice and loose. And I'm very hopeful that this will be an easy hole to dig as well. I feel like in fall things are not quite as wet as they are in the springtime in my garden. So it's definitely one of the reasons why I prefer fall planting, in addition to the fact that the root balls get such a good start. Many of you have suggested that I use an auger for digging because you found it easier for yourself. I really like using an old-fashioned shovel for digging right now as long as I can. This is basically like my workout when I'm in the garden. I'm not a gym person, and so this is how I kind of get my exercise, I guess you'd say. All right, let's see how this goes. There we go. All right. I think this is going to be the right depth. Maybe even just slightly too deep, so I'm going to add a little bit more soil back. Just a skosh. It is worse to plant it too deep than it is to plant it too high. All right, now that I have it placed, I'm just gonna step away from it and see if I like the way that it's facing and if I've got it situated correctly, if I need to move it. And now we're just gonna backfill with that wonderful native soil that we just dug up. No supplementing, no fertilization this time of year. To fertilize would be a mistake. It would potentially push a little bit of new growth on this that could be damaged by an early freeze or something like that. I really just want this plant to get focused on establishing its roots and hopefully being ready to bloom come springtime. Now I'm just kind of leveling the soil with my hands based on all of the soil and mulch that we kind of dug out here, and also trying to make sure that it slopes slightly away from the house. Well, I think that's looking pretty nice. I think that's going to fill in that area pretty good. We will see how that fills in over time. If I don't have better luck with the blue shadow Fothergilla over here, I may eventually move that one as well to a different spot, but right now it's doing okay. I replanted it last year, and so I just want to make sure that I give it several years to reacclimate to the soil and where it's at. And I'm not going to water this Fothergilla in today because I just basically got so much rain, and the water in the pot was quite good in terms of how wet the soil was. And the soil that is in the ground obviously is also nice and moist. So the next few days we also are going to have similar weather to today, where it's going to be in the 50s. So I think it's going to be a perfect temperature for it to adjust and not have to worry about it getting dried out. Well, we have one other task that I want to take care of in this garden video today, and that is to head over to one of our strawberry hydrangeas, and I want to harvest some of the blooms off of it. Well, this is such a beautiful hydrangea. I just love my strawberry Sunday hydrangeas. And I like decorating with them in wintertime. So I'm just going to be cutting these, and then I will strip the leaves off of the stems, and I will place them in about an inch of water just to ensure that they dry really well. Now, I probably won't harvest all of these. The interesting thing is you can see that the side that is up against the fence is still green, and the side that faced out towards the sun has colored up really well. I'm going to take some of the biggest ones, some of the ones that are off the bottom, some that will help the stems go upright. And if you break a bloom, it's okay. You can just pop part of it off and keep the rest of it. These will actually keep their glorious color, and boy, we can use any type of color that we can get in the middle of winter here in Michigan. And the stems can be any length that you want them to be. They could be short, they could be long. You can use them in winter arrangements. You can use them for wreaths. There's all sorts of things that you can do DIY. You could check things out on TikTok, or there are things that you can see on Pinterest. I'm not a super craftsy person, but I tell you what, there are a lot of them out there and they're good at it. And they have lots of amazing ideas. So if you're into that sort of thing, there are thousands of ideas out there about how to use garden materials to make something that's interesting. Now I'm just taking off some of them, like I said, towards the bottom here. And I'm gonna leave a lot of them because I still wanna enjoy the color that it provides in the garden right now. I don't wanna take all of them, but I wanna make sure that I harvest them before we end up getting like a freeze or a significant frost where it ruins the blooms. And I'm sure one of those is coming soon. I love to use these with evergreen boughs. I just think they look so lovely. We'll take some of them off the front here as well. And they don't all have to be big. You can choose some small ones if you want to. And again, I'm just using my fingers to strip these off, but it's nice to wear a pair of gloves when you do this because it makes it that much easier and you don't hurt your fingers along the little nodes on the stems. So there we have it. The strawberry Sunday hydrangea still looks like it's got quite a lot of bloom on it, but we have also harvested a magnificent pile of colorful blooms. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this garden video and that you'll stay tuned for more in the future. We'll see you next time.